All right. My name is Michelle Copeland. I am covering the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami that happened in Japan. Let's go ahead and get started. So, the reason I chose to do the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami was because I was just first off interested in learning about Tohoku. And like, I didn't even know that it wasn't a town. I always assumed Tohoku was a town in Japan. It's actually not. It is a region of Japan, and I'll talk more about that here in a little bit. I also found it interesting because it was the largest earthquake that was ever recorded in Japanese history. And at that time, it was also the third largest earthquake that had happened since 1900. Um, let's see. Japan also has a super rich culture and amazing histories. I've always actually just been fascinated with Japan. Um, it's always been one of those places that I'd love to visit one day, like the cherry blossom trees and everything like that. Um, it's important to cover this disaster to bring light to the horrible event that led to a lot of lives lost. Also, living and business areas were destroyed. And then, like I said, it was one of the worst earthquakes in the 1900s. So a little bit about Tohoku. So it is a region, like I was saying. It's made up of 6 different prefectures. So Miyagi is the largest, and then Sendai is inside of Miyagi as the capital city. Um, it's the region that is in northern mainland Japan. Um, the region is more rural compared to Tokyo, so a little more country, but not underdeveloped by any means. Very um, tourist friendly, and I found a really cool page that had a lot of different things you can do while you're there. Some of them I have listed here, like they have forests that are basically just these, like, I guess the best way I know to explain it is a fairy forest. It has that vibe of just being like an untouched forest. They have apple orchards, and then they also do rice field art, which is really cool. You should look that up. Also, beautiful scenery, lots of different festivals, and then there's actually mountains up there as well that are snow covered in the winter time, and a lot more. Um, the region itself is actually home to about 8.6 million people, and the land total area takes up about a fifth of Japan. So here is a map of the region I was talking about. You've got mainland Japan right here, and then this is the Tohoku region. If Fukushima's in there, Sendai's right here, Omori here, and then Akita, Iwate, Yamagata, I'm sorry, are also places. And here's some scenery pictures that they have here. One of their festivals of lights, like I was talking about, cherry blossoms, snowy mountains, and then just really cool. I think this is actually in Fukushima, this area. So I just wanted to give a little background of where we're talking about this happening at. Um, so before the disaster, Japan actually already had an early warning system in place for earthquakes, which, of course, this saved a ton of lives. Also allowed people to prepare because they've had earthquakes there for a very long time. They also have really stringent building codes. So if like a business, or when they're building a business or a home, they make sure that they have all these codes up to date so that when these earthquakes do hit, it doesn't completely just crumple and that they can sway with it. The early warning system also tells factory assembly lines to go ahead and shut down, and then it actually stops the high-speed trains that they have there as well. And then the people of Japan also receive a text message alert on all their cell phones, so they'll all sign up to receive these disaster alerts, or I think that's what they call them, disaster alerts. And they get these text messages on their phones in order to be able to prepare. The scientists actually believe that an earthquake would happen in this area, but that it would be much smaller. They were not prepared for the massive tsunami that actually followed as well. So they thought the earthquake would be much smaller and not even have to worry about the tsunami that followed. So this right here is Notori City in 1999. So this is what I'm doing a little before picture of, just so that here in a little bit I'll show you the after picture. But you can see there's a lot of cropland. It's not, like we said, it's not just a rural farmland. It also has these businesses and stuff in here too. And then we got our shoreline right here. This is actually Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant. So I know we heard a lot about this in the news. We have all 4 reactors right here. And again, I'm showing this because I will show you an after picture of what happened after the tsunami hit. Also, just to mention on this, it says it up here too, but this Japan's largest ongoing threat is at the nuclear power plant. So after the disaster happened, they're still trying to do cleanup from this. And again, I'll talk about that in a little bit. So during the disaster, the earthquake, which was a 9.1 on the Richter scale, started on March 11th at 2:46 p.m. and lasted about 6 minutes. So it was not a short little shake. It was a while. Probably felt like an eternity to the people that were experiencing it. It was centered on the seafloor 45 miles east of Tohoku region, at a depth of about 15 miles below the surface. So let me go back up to my map here. So we're talking about this area right in here, is where the epicenter of that earthquake ended up being. Okay. The tsunami that followed reached the coast around 30 minutes later. So they had, between the earthquake and then the tsunami hitting, they had a 30-minute warning to be able to evacuate, which in honesty is not very long at all. I have 3 boys, and I can imagine it would take us just 30 minutes to get clothes and get out the door. Like, they probably weren't able to grab anything, especially if they were living around those coastal regions. It actually spread across 1,242 miles of Japanese coastline. So let me go back here to my map. And we're talking about right here in this region. This is where the tsunami hit, and it just spread across this whole entire coastline right here and took out a lot of businesses and a lot of people's homes, sadly. And then talking about the tsunami itself, the maximum wave height actually hit Iwate Prefecture. It was 130 feet tall. The wave also inundated the land around it, 154 square miles of the land in Iwate, Miyagi, and then this is Fukushima prefectures. I'm sorry about my picture being here. I don't really know how to move it so that it's not in the way. Oh, yay. Okay, I could do that. I'm sorry. Here we go. So this is actually, I'm actually going to move my picture back down. I'm sorry about that. This is the coastline that we were talking about, and then this is after or while the wave, the tsunami was hitting. This is how far inland it rushed, and you can see these houses that are just completely gone and destroyed, these businesses that are completely gone and destroyed, and this is, you can see it all up and down the coastline. Like I said, it was massive. And then crossing over this river broke these barriers as well. There's a lot of pictures of, I think, this wave right here. So after the disaster caused around $220 billion in damage. One of the most if not the most expensive natural disasters that ever happened in Japan, and most costly. Um, the main island of Japan, which is Honshu, which I actually did not know that. I didn't know that Japan was broken up into islands. I just saw Japan and thought Japan. No, Honshu is actually the main island of Japan that I was talking about. Um, After the disaster, it actually moved 2.4 feet east. So the whole main island got moved 2.4 feet east. Like, that is insane to me. It also dropped around 250 miles of coastline by 2 feet. So that coastline, 250 miles of that coastline dropped by 2 feet. Like, just that's so much movement, mass movement of these of this island. Sadly, the total number of deaths is a little bit complicated. The most recent number that I could find was in the 200, or I'm sorry, the 20,000s. Initially, it was reported around 18,000, with a bunch of people missing, 1,000, 2,000 people missing, or more than 2,000 people missing. Until now, years have passed, and the missing have now been counted amongst the dead. So that's why we're in the 20,000s. I still think they say there's about 750 people missing, or they're still trying to figure out where they're located. This one kind of shocked me a little bit, but there was additional damage costs where in Hawaii was 31 million, and then 100 million in California. So when that, well, I'm going to go back up to my map. I'm sorry, that's the wrong way to go. Here we go. So whenever it hit here, obviously the brunt of it hit along Tohoku, but the opposite happened this way. So the waves were hitting this way. I saw a map where it said that I think it was 12 hours later, it hitting the California coast. And so there was damage in California. It was $100 million in damage in California just from that earthquake all the way to Japan, which is, again, just shows the pure strength of what happened, and also the tsunamis that followed. And then Hawaii had 31 million as well. So these are those after pictures that I was talking about. This is Notorious City in 2011, right after it. You can see how completely devastated this land is, how this completely was wiped out. All of those businesses that we saw in here. The cropland's still decently okay, but this whole entire area that was housing and businesses is completely gone. All of this forested area that was along the coastline here is completely flattened. I mean, it was completely and utterly destructive. It just flattened everything. It was really crazy. And then this is the after pictures of those reactors that I was talking about. So it's saying right here, all four have released some radioactive material. Reactor number 3 had the largest meltdown, fastest meltdown from what I read. And then reactor 4 went out, and then reactor 1. Reactor 2 actually didn't have a meltdown. I was kind of surprised by that. And whenever I say meltdown, it was a meltdown, and then it basically explodes. There's an explosion that happens, and that's why they look the way they do. But this was right after that. I think over the course of 3 days is whenever they had these meltdowns happening. And now, 10 years later? No, 12 years later, they're still dealing with the fallout from these, and trying to do cleanup and stuff. As for finding information on this particular disaster, it wasn't really that difficult. There's a lot of information in a lot of different places. It was just finding all the places to look. So I wouldn't say it was difficult at all to be able to find information. I strongly suggest to anybody to go look into the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, and go check out. A lot of the pictures and stuff are really crazy and just really eye-opening to what kind of disaster it was and how strong it is. But that is all I have for you, and thank you, and have a great day.